the worst anybody can say is no. And I thought, then why am I not doing that? Hey, I'd like to work with you on this project, but I need this much money and I'd like a 50% affiliate. It's kind of a hodgepodge of things. I like that. I like doing that. There's something about the connecting with people and helping them. Anybody watches a video, you see, the view go up, you see a like, you see a comment that they've taken the time to do that. Oh my word. I mean, that's just dang cool.
This is Kevin Kolbe. He makes up to $85,000 a year helping you do video. With over 30 years of experience from local radio and TV stations, Kevin has amassed an incredibly unique perspective and work ethic. As a hands-on creator now focused on teaching you what you need to know to make better videos, he has found a unique niche with working in the nonprofit sector and with SaaS companies. In this episode, we dive into his incredible 30-plus year creator journey that has led him to YouTube. What working on TV has taught him to make him a great creator, why his age and smaller subscriber count are being used to his advantage, and his reflection on his career and what you should focus on. Kevin shows that wisdom and age can give you an incredible leg up in the creator economy, especially when you have the right attitude. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar. I am so excited to chat with you today, Kevin. You're one of my favorite people, and so I like when I get to talk to some of my favorite people on a podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I've been your fan too for a long, long time. I don't even remember the first video I saw that Desiree popped up on my channel, but I know we've connected over the years and you're just cool.
I feel the exact same way about you. You've had just such a genuine and stealthy and impactful journey as a creator. And your journey to being a YouTuber, I think, is what draws me to this conversation today. So Kevin, share with us what you create on YouTube and then go and tell us how this crazy journey started.
Yeah. So really, I can boil my channel down to I just help people do video. That's it. I don't really try and get people to go pro, even though I'm a pro and I don't know why I'm doing the air quotes because I am. I find that people, when they're just starting out or they're getting ready to start or they've been at it a little bit and they're stuck, they're more open to learning. And sometimes us pros, there's some in our field that are just, it's like, dude, it's not a club. Anybody can be in it. You got a camera, you got an attitude, just record something. So that's what I do. I do a lot of stuff on editing. I'm a Mac guy, so almost anything I teach will be Mac related. I joke that I just pray for the people on PC because I don't understand those. And that's what I do. I share that. And along the way, I've tried to share some of my journey as well. I have what's considered a smaller channel, but you can have a big impact with a small channel. So that's what I do. And I like to connect with people. I like to help them with video, and I even also talk a lot about YouTube, not growth stuff, not the hack things. It's just like how to do the basic stuff, like how to upload a thumbnail after you've done your video, or the new thing, the inspiration tab, how to use it and things like that. So that's pretty much what I do.
You do not have a conventional start, though, to the video industry. Where does your experience lie? What have you done? Tell us the pre-YouTube stuff.
Well, back in the day, Desiree, before there were pictures, I was on the radio. That's actually where I started. I started on the radio. I actually grew up. I wanted to do so much stuff as a kid and still do as adult, but I really was fascinated with the radio. And as I started college back in, I got a chance to be on the radio and loved it. I eventually got to work for the station I listened to. I'm like, I've made it. Even though they're paying me minimum wage, I don't care. And then TV came along and I had an opportunity to get into TV. I knew nothing about TV. I knew there were two letters, T and V. And I thought, what the heck? And it was a brand new startup station. And they offered me the job of promotion manager. And it was me and one other person. I knew nothing, Desiree, nothing about television at all. And they said, do you want to learn how to edit? Yes. Do you want to be on TV? Sure. Do you want to? I said, I just think this is really cool. And that started, goodness, maybe a 30-year run. I'd have to do the math, which I can't because I'm a creative. But I worked at CBS affiliate stations and NBC and ABC and Fox twice. I was actually at a station that became one of the first Fox stations and then ended my run in television at a Fox station. So kind of, I guess, poetic justice. But I was in the business for a long, long time. My last gig in television I was a creative director for a Fox station, and we were probably one of the most recognized Fox stations in the country. We were more entertainment based. which really jived with Fox. And so we got to do a lot of cool stuff, a lot of beta stuff. We'd call them up and say, hey, what if we try this? And they're like, okay. And they would fund it. And it was a blast. I had an amazing team. And then we were in charge of like marketing the station. I mean, that's what we did. We were like the in-house agency for the station. So we promoted all the programs, but we also did commercial production. We did programming. We did special event promotion. We worked with community organizations on nonprofit campaigns, and cause marketing is what we called it, where, you could get behind something, make a lot of money, but yet it had a reason to be there for the public, not just making money like a commercial. So we did a ton of stuff. The position finally went away, as things happen in the business that I was in. And I knew it would be. I knew it was going to be a matter of time. But the day they told me they eliminated my position, I was having lunch with a buddy. And I called my wife, Lisa, and I said, well, they just cut my job. She started crying. I said, well, honey, we knew it was coming. She said, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be today. And I said, well, I didn't either when I drove in, but it was. And then that led me into, what the heck do I do now? And I kept thinking I'd get back in TV because people kept telling me I'd probably get back in TV. And I applied at several jobs. And the last TV station I was interviewing at, I got to know the general manager really well. And he said, Kevin, do you really want to get back into TV? Because he had been in, gotten out, and got back in. And I said, absolutely. And inside I thought, no way. So he didn't hire me. And that was the best thing that ever happened. And then what ended up happening is people were asking me, mostly nonprofits, hey, could you help me with this project? Could you help me with this project? Could you help us with a video? Could you help us with our video marketing? I'm like, yeah, I think so. I like that kind of stuff. Love working with nonprofits. And so that kind of became what I say, God gave me my next chapter. It's like, you're going to work for yourself and you're going to be a solo creator, and we're going to do some other stuff. It's funny because I went back and looked. My YouTube channel started in 2017. And 2017 in March is when they cut my position. So I'm like, oh, wow. And now I'd like to say, and that's when it took off, but it wasn't until a couple of years that my channel got audited during a conference that it kind of lit a fire under my butt to take YouTube serious. And so that's what I focus on now.
Such an incredible journey. There's so much to unpack. I actually have like some notes for future questions, but I don't know if you know this about me, Kevin, but I used to work in TV. I did. So the last job I ever had was working for my CBS affiliate in Phoenix, Arizona. I got hired as like a one of a kind, like unique, first of its kind position. Now, obviously super common. I was a social media producer. So I had been doing social media for like 4 or 5 years at that point. This was 2013. And CBS was looking to hire someone, but they didn't want somebody who had been in news, because they were like, we already have producers, we already have reporters. We need someone that understands social media as a business so that we can cross promote and like how like our advertisers would work and like all that stuff, because they were trying to find a way to bridge. Because anyone knows, like, as great as TV is, as great as media is, as great as news is, and about informing us and all the things, it's still business and it still needs to make money. And so they were trying to see ahead of what was going to happen, so that they could make sure that they were prepared to capitalize on it. And like, they had some really old fashioned beliefs about how social media worked, especially related to like, I love how you laughed about, especially how it relates to like Nelson numbers, like our ratings and stuff. I remember when I did my interview with the creative director for the station, I brought him this like document. And I was like, okay, look, this is where your station is compared to the other stations in town. Cause we had all of them, Fox, ABC, all of that kind of stuff. The local CW kind of thing, right? And I was like, here's the rankings for what you're doing comparatively. And it's like, while you have this, and like this, so we can do to help. And I had a whole plan and a 90-day strategy and all this stuff. And he was like, okay. And then he called my references and they're like, thank you for hiring her. Like, you should hire her. She knows what she's talking about. And so I went in and I remember the first thing, the station, like the station owner came in, old guy. And he was like, you have one job. You have to get our numbers up. And I was like, huh? He's like, we need likes because Fox down the street has 80,000 likes and we only have 25,000 likes. And I was like, because this is Facebook, right? And it was 2013, so that mattered then. And I was like, but that's not the measurement of social media that matters, because Fox has this high following because they're doing giveaways for likes, like our page get a TV, like our page get an iPad. And he was like, whatever you have to do, like we have to match those numbers. I was like, but that doesn't matter. He's like, in TV, numbers are all that matters. And I was like, okay. So it's like this like trial by fire situation. But I remember we had this like really great opportunity that they would not do because they wouldn't be able to directly host it through their platform on Google. So they had Xfinity was rebranding, like their Xfinity now, they had rebranded from something else, other internet provider, and Google Plus had just come out and it was this new thing. And I had this idea. I was like, because they had this really amazing morning team and this guy on their team named Paul who was just down to anything. Like he was DTA. It was amazing. He would do what he's like, what do you want to do? We can do that. Like I'm creative. Like it's a fun. I want to try new stuff. I want to do all these great, silly, crazy things. And so the idea I had was like, what if we did like a 5-10 minute like Google Plus show sponsored by Xfinity and we talking about like the things that are happening in the Phoenix metro area. And it could be like a way to do like an extension of the morning show because the morning show has its limited like structure and all that stuff. And like Xfinity loved it. And the marketing team loved it. And the sales team loved it. The station manager and the owner were like, no, it can't be on the website. We're not doing it. And I was like, but this is an like we can redo it and all this. It was this whole really dumb, complicated process. And, you know, it was just one of those things like where like that limited thinking around like what could be done by using new opportunities in social. I actually ended up losing that job because I sent a tweet out too soon about correct information, which is so funny when we reflect back in like the last like, five, like last, like basically the last two election cycles where it doesn't matter if it's vetted or whatever, like people just post stuff. But I had said something out that was just too soon because it hadn't been vetted enough. And it was this whole like thing. And so it was this, unfortunately, it was my last job that I ever had, was working in TV. But I love though that time that I had there because it gave me a lot of experience. It helped me with like teaching people structure. Like it's not that every experience is a great chance to learn, but I just think it's a fun collaborative like share that we have together. So what do you think was the best lesson that you had working in TV that has helped you as a YouTuber?
We had to adapt a lot. Before I worked for the Fox station, before I was the creative director, I, worked at the other stations and we would work hand in hand with news. And it was not uncommon to be promoting something maybe before news was even ready with it and working hand in hand with them to design it and come up with it. And then all of a sudden something happens because it's news and you have to adapt and you have to change. And it's not like, well, I just don't think I can get that video ready. It's like, okay, the video is going to air in 2 hours. So you better come up with something. And when I say video, it was typically like think of a commercial, we call them promos at the time. And so you had to get good at being creative and being very adaptive fast. And if you didn't, you just didn't make it. Now, it wasn't always like that, but I think that has helped me. The flip side of that, what's actually been bad is because on television, it just, and just everything had to be like every frame would be like, scrutinized. And we would have meetings for meetings before we would run things like with the Super Bowl. If we had a commercial in the Super Bowl, oh my word, we'd start 6 months in advance thinking about it. And and then you get to YouTube in our world and it's like, you can kind of overproduce stuff and overthink it. And so that's been the flip side of it. But I think being able to come from the world of production and understanding enough of the basics of how things worked, it kind of helped me jumpstart just being on camera, which is so funny because I never, ever, Desiree, had a desire to be on camera. Ever, ever. I was always happy as a whatever is happy being behind the camera. And so I think radio helped me with that, just turning on the mic and talking between songs. And, and my mother she was the kind when she was alive that she could stop anybody and talk to anybody about anybody. And so I got that side of her. And so I think that has helped me then in being able to just create and put myself out there and not worry about it and things like that. And it's become freeing. So there was the flip side. So I don't know if that really answered it, but those are some things that helped. And then some of the things that kind of bit me in the butt.
There's always those. But I think it's important, like being adaptive and being quick. Like when we talk about YouTube, there are some, like there's an expectation. And while I know that we are in the creator space kind of like button against it a bit, is that like you have to show up consistently every week to be like relevant in all the things. And so you're on in this constant cycle of creating. Like once it's done, it's like it never happened. We're going on to the next thing. And that is very much how TV news is and station media. It's very different from like syndicated television, right? Where it's like planned shows and seasons and stuff. Like news is like, when you think about news, like a lot of people know, like you have a morning show and like a noon show, a 5, a 7, and a 10 show. Like that's That's a lot of news you gotta produce every single day. It's almost like it's like TikTok. It's like the TikTok of content creation, like before TikTok was a thing. It's like a lot of content you have to pump out with lots of people, and it's a whole collaborative process.
I do think the other thing that helped me though was also being at a Fox station that wasn't news heavy because we did a lot of entertainment stuff. We did contests, we did wacky stuff, and we did things. And I mean not to the extreme of some YouTube stuff, but I mean, and so it wasn't always so straight laced, and that I think helped us. And then we did a lot of stuff on the web, so we weren't always confined to like 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds or 60 seconds, which whenever we had 60 seconds it was like, oh my word, I can play forever, you know. So that has helped as well.
And that is so cool. I love that. So you also had mentioned how after you were let go in 2017, I love that you're a fellow 2017 YouTube starter. Like that's where I met too. You said that you started doing like nonprofit work. So this is, I think, where like the income part of a lot of this conversation will go into place. So talk to us about how that nonprofit work has started for you, and like how it continues to be a part of what you do for revenue as a creator.
Yeah, so a lot of what I was doing was very hands-on. So, like, there was a nonprofit agency that I worked with for a bit. And when I say worked with, I mean produced for. I was under contract, and we would do story videos. And the main thrust of their agency was foster care and adoption. And they hadn't really gotten into video at all. Kudos to them. They realized the power of that. And they had families that were willing to talk, but they didn't have anybody on staff. In fact, they probably had like 3 people on staff. And so that became a, well, you know, let's tell the stories. And so a lot of the nonprofits I've been very blessed to work with, it's not just like, okay, here's the script, go record this. It's like, what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to create with them together, but then there's also been a leap of faith of like, well, let's see what you can turn from that. Oh, we didn't even think about that, you know. And so I kind of would serve sometimes as a creative director, producer, director, shooter, editor, you know, and then even helping them after it's over, you know. Well, now are you going to share this here, and are you going to put it on your website? Oh, we hadn't thought about that, you know. And do you have an event coming up? And so that became a lot of it. And then just over time, in fact, I sent you before we had this interview a grid that something you said sparked this. I was curious of everybody I've worked with, what was my point of contact with them? And I was shocked that so many of them were personal connections, which is, you could say, is networking or referenced by friends. Only 2 or 3 from social media ever. And 2 of those were squirrely accounts, one I had to fire. But that's kind of how the nonprofit thing worked. And there's still one that I'm working with now. I've kind of gotten out of the hands-on stuff. There's guys out there, it's just they're better, they're cheaper, you know, and I just don't want to compete with that. I'd rather produce for my channel or, you know, another channel or something like that, you know, through whether it's sponsored content or whatever. But I'm still working with a nonprofit. It's the only one that I'm actively producing content for. And it's just, we've just jived over the last few years. They get grants and they just like me, I like them, and we've kind of got the style down pat. In fact, I was just yesterday there shooting a new video for them that I was editing before we came on today. But then I've also gone over into consulting with a nonprofit, helped them create like a video podcast room. I don't want to call it a studio, so they could be more consistent getting the information out to their community. So those are some ways.
So with pairing with like, you know, getting started and how you got thrusted into becoming a full-time creator and stuff, I'd love if you could share with us like a bad money experience that you have had that we can learn from.
Well, there was an agency that reached out to me, ironic, on LinkedIn, and it wasn't as much as I thought I wanted to make, but I was still kind of new to that game and I didn't really know how much I should make because, you know, without sharing numbers, I was making a really nice salary in television, probably more than I should have made, but I took it. I never said no. I don't want to get paid this week. Give me more. And so then all of a sudden you get into kind of you're working for yourself world, and it's like, oh, the checks don't come every 2 weeks. Oh, okay, well that's new. And oh, there's healthcare I've got to pay for. Okay, I'll figure this out. And so this agency, we met, and he brought me in on a project, and I didn't ask for anything up front, and it became 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. And then I hear he's going bankrupt, and he's letting people go and stuff. And thankfully, I got paid. I think I got paid 6 months after the video. And a buddy of mine was doing voice work for him and still to this day never got paid.
Oh
So
man.
that was one I learned quickly. And then over time, just as you do this a little bit more, it's like, well, yeah, why am I waiting 90 days to get paid? And why don't I ask for more? Even in the affiliate end, why am I not going in for saying a higher cut on the affiliate? All they can say is no, which Desiree, and this is what's so funny. I preach to my team all the time in television. The worst anybody can say is no. And I thought, then why am I not doing that? Hey, I'd like to work with you on this project, but I need this much money, and I'd like a 50% affiliate cut. All they can say is no. And if they come back and go, well, we were going to give you 45%, I'm in the back of my mind going, yes. I was hoping for 20. So those are the type things that I'm still learning. But I think the one with the agency going under, I learned a lot. And here's the other thing too. We didn't really have a contract. We kind of had more of a verbal and some emails. And so when I started doing this push and shove type thing, there wasn't anything I could say, well, according to the contract. And so that was a big, huge learning experience for me. It's like, dude, if this is gonna be a business, treat it like a business.
So when you're talking about like the money situation, so what is your new payment terms that you require? If you, I know I have mine. I'm happy to share mine as well, but I'd love to know what yours are.
I asked for full payment upfront, period, to start anything.
Same. I will do. I will compromise often or sometimes and do half upfront, half after. But like the vast majority of my payment stuff, I'm like, we need to have this very clear. Like, I want credit card on file. We're gonna do direct deposit. I'm not gonna start until we have this long term. Like this is the deposit date that we're getting every month. And I don't know. I don't want to say I feel bad. I feel bad for so many influencers in this space, especially I feel like once you deal with like agencies and stuff like that, where like that's like it's just normal. Like just because it's normal doesn't mean you have to accept it. Like this whole like 30, 60, 90 day thing, absolutely not. I'm like, no, I don't have a single client that I work with where I'm not paid within the month of which I am doing that work for them.
And I get it. I mean, if a brand reaches out and they don't know you, even though here's the thing, if they're reaching out to you and you've got a YouTube channel and they haven't even looked at your channel, come on.
Yeah.
How lazy can you be? Just look in there and you can see the work, and evidently you thought something about it because then you reached out and said, hey, we want to work together. So I have the right to say, okay, I'll do split, but I still got to have the first half in advance before we even start creating things. And then I also push back on redos. There's somebody I'm working with right now, and they wanted to pay me the full thing like 30 days after all the deliverables. And then they wanted like 3 revisions on everything. And I said, no, I'll take everything up front. I didn't say it that way. And you have 1 revision because I think I'm going to wow you so much that you won't want any more. That sounded arrogant.
Revisions cause so much bottleneck. Even with this podcast, like with our editing company that we work with, like we're on a pretty systemized way of doing things. Oftentimes, if we have changes and edits, it's usually things just like misspellings or like like the wrong word was heard from what it was, or I want to add in additional visual or something like that. But and we've worked on a project together where like I love the client and they're great, but sometimes it does get a little bit like too much, and it's just like 80% done is better than 100% of nothing.
Yeah, I would start adding in like, beyond that, it would be like a ridiculous charge per hour. No, I started per hour. Then I realized, okay, wait a minute, they could, and this isn't to grind the client. This is to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But I realized if I said per hour, you could do a lot of changes. So then I made it per change.
Oh, wow.
And it's amazing how somebody will go, that's okay. I'm okay with that. As opposed to like, well, could you slide the shot over just a tad more? Well, I can, but that's going to cost you another $250. You know what? It looks good.
Yeah.
And that's how it's worked. And that's happened before. Like, well, can you add some, because a lot of times I don't think clients know. They just don't know. Can you add some extra footage? Well, I can, but I've got to go look for it. It's got to match. You've got to approve it. So here's my charge for that, because we didn't talk about that to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those things matter. And I also think it's important to note too, like when you go, as creators who might be listening to us are like, ooh, It's also important to remember, like, with, like, when it comes to payments of stuff, the contracts that you put in place also protect the client as well. So, like, if you don't do something, they have legal grounds to come after you for the money that, like, you already accepted and stuff. So, it's really just making sure, like, you're updated, like, even, like, if it's, like, midterm, like, having that, like, those documents in place for stuff, like, it's just super helpful and super important. And paperwork and money, is how this whole world runs. And we're no different.
And if you don't treat it like a business, I mean, they're a business and they'll be more than happy to run your business for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you are not wrong, sir. What has been one of your most successful financial, like, outcomes that you have been able to build as a creator?
Well, it's probably the first one I got right out of the gate. And this goes back to connections. So I not too early in my journey, I got an opportunity to work with Sony Pictures Television and create a campaign for King of Queens, which is in syndication. And if people don't understand how that works, is that, when King of Queens was running on CBS, then at some point Sony, who owned the show, they would sell it to television stations and they could run it. And that's where you would see King of Queens at 6 p.m. and 5 p.m. and midnight and on the weekends and everything. And I had worked with Sony through my various jobs on different things. In fact, I actually got really close with their vice president of marketing. I got to have dinner with Dr. Oz one night. There we go. There's a name dropper. And so they approached me and said, "Hey, look, we would like to hire you to do a fresh campaign for the King of Queens." And I'm like, okay, I could think of a worse day in my little edit suite. And they were so good to work with. Talk about, and they paid up front. And that was the other thing I learned. It was a lot of money, Desiree, and they paid up front every penny, and I hadn't even delivered anything, but they were so good to work with. I don't think they asked for any changes. I mean, we worked together on the script. I gave them like 2 or 3 ideas and they liked one of them, but they let me pick the voiceover guy. I had somebody do some animation on it. I edited it. It was, and I had access to the entire King of Queens library. I mean, talk about just, taking some time to find some footage because I wanted to like watch shows and laugh. So I would say that was one. Now, the downside to that is you think, hey, all the jobs are going to be like this, and they're not. But other ones have come along too. I mean, I've had some, I don't know if you want me to name names or just talk about in general. There's some other online companies, I'll put it that way, that, have been really good in terms of, hey, we want to work with you and do stuff for our channel, you do stuff for yours. Pay was good. Even though it's not always about the pay was good, but the people were great. And then you get into the collaboration. Just like, well, what do you want the next video to be on? Well, let's talk about that. And those have been probably the ones that come to mind.
Well, this is a good way for us to transition into our pie chart. As we know, we are different from other podcasts where we break down income by percentages based on, like, the different income opportunities that you have been able to generate for yourself. So we have AdSense at the top, which makes up 5% of your income. And then we have sponsorships at 15%. Now, I looked at that spreadsheet that you shared with me where you talked about, like, the work you've done, the relationships you had. Dude, you've worked with, like, all the SaaS companies in the space. What has been one of your favorite ones that you've gotten to work with?
I wasn't prepared for that. I don't know. I've worked with a lot of them. I mean, I worked with BeLive some. They were fantastic. Ecamm has been fantastic. To me, the measure is even when you're not working with somebody, but you're still friends with them.
Yes.
StreamYard has been great. Working some now with Riverside. They've been fantastic. And in fact, I have to remind myself, tell my wife, okay, remember, it's still a business. It's still a business. But man, these people are really cool. Those have come to mind. But I mean, I worked with Owen Video for many, many, many months. I was one of his coaches and getting to meet people. So I don't know. I mean, it's just it's hard to say. But then I've had other companies reach out and nothing work out, but we've become friends from that as well, other creators and things like that. So I don't know if that's answering the question, but those are ones that came to mind that have just been a blast to work with.
You also have 15% of your income coming from affiliates. I'm guessing that your sponsorships and affiliates go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, would I like to have more sponsorships? Yes. And I'm still trying to kind of figure out that navigation, about rather than doing maybe an entire dedicated video, which are kind of tough to do because you want to be real about it, but at the same time, and more like running a commercial in your show, if you will. But yeah, affiliates. I mean, I was trying to count the other day and goodness, I mean, I'm probably in 50 plus affiliate programs. I see, I'm one of these guys. I don't have a problem with saying, hey, do you have an affiliate program, or searching it online and joining it. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll look at whatever it might be. Maybe it's an AI thing. And I go, this is pretty cool. And so I'll join the affiliate program. Maybe I use it, maybe I don't. I also created a website that is, I would say, 95% affiliate links on there. And so there are a lot of affiliate links on that site for things that, I'm not vetting, but some of the companies I've talked to, but I'm not working directly with. But I mean, affiliate, money is all over the place. And there's a few that perform incredibly well. And then there's some that it's like, oh, you'll get a little, oh, you made a sale. And it's like, I forgot I was even in your program. Thank you.
You have this really small percentage that comes from your merch. What's the merch that you sell?
I've done some t-shirts that haven't done that much. I think I sold one cup once, one mug or something like that.
I was not able to figure out, at least the time that we're doing this, I have not been able to figure out successful merch. And I don't know if it makes sense for what I do in the same way. Like, I don't have like the Niminati, like, that kind of things, or like what StreamYard's built with like the ducks and stuff like that. So just a little harder.
And I was gonna create this whole thing. I had this idea for special T-shirts and having sayings on them and stuff like that. And it just became one of those shiny objects. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Am I chasing this because it's fun and I think it's something? I don't see. That's one of those things. I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, but I do consider myself just kind of like an idea person. Oh, what about this? What about this? I think that honestly came from my TV days and probably the way I'm wired. And so, but then again, it's like, yeah, but is this something I really want to fool with? So if I may have had that a little too high in there, but I have sold some merch things. I've probably had a little bit more success with digital products than merch.
And that's totally understandable. You've made 5% of your income from like the Amazon and creator programs, like the same thing that most of us have, where we have like Amazon links down to things at the bottom. What makes up a really big chunk of your income actually comes from services, courses, digital products, and consulting and speaking. What does that look like for you nowadays?
I would rather do more consulting than hands-on production, like we were talking a few minutes ago. And so I think it shifted over time where I was far more interested in, hey, can I do your videos for you? And can I do this? And most of the time, except for a few exceptions, I would be doing longer form stuff. Like I don't know how much you know about country music, but I did a whole interview with Lainey Wilson before Lainey Wilson even went to Nashville, because a buddy of mine was managing her, and I've got the raw. It's never been released, but
Wow.
that's the type thing I would do, and then sometimes it'd be a vlog or whatever. So being able to do that, I think now it's more consulting. I've had far more people come to me that, whether they're entrepreneurs or whatever, and they want to get into video, or they want to do video podcasting, or, maybe they've done some courses, or they want to do courses and they don't even know how to start, and that's been some of it as well. There's a friend of mine who was a client that I produced until recently all of her online courses. And she was a silversmith. She still is a silversmith, and was phenomenal. That falls into that service thing, if you will, of coaching, consulting, creating that thing as well. I forgot what else was part of that, but it's kind of a hodgepodge of things, I like that. I like doing that. There's something about the connecting with people and helping them, but I would probably put the service of, and maybe this is the wrong place on the pie chart, but when I was working with BeLive and Ecamm and StreamYard and some of these other ones, where that became, I'm getting paid and I'm delivering things for them and me, and it becomes some sponsorship and some affiliate and some paycheck, so it's a little bit all over the place, but it's been fun.
No, I hear you on it. And I get that as well, that like UGC almost element for how it all works. One of the things I loved about our relationship and knowing you and wanting to bring you on this is that you sit in a very similar boat to me in this like small but mighty channel situation. We found a way to make full-time incomes that help provide for our families. And also I think you have this extra layer of like, you have so much fantastic experience, but you started being on YouTube at an older age. And I know that you obviously have a very techie background, which is, I think, unusual even for most people of any age nowadays, that allows for you to have the skills to kind of like adapt really well in the space. But what are your thoughts like reflecting on like where things are for you as a YouTuber and a business owner with where you are in your life?
I love it. I mean, I've been asked before, what's your favorite platform? And it's like, "Pfft, it's YouTube. I mean, I watch it to learn, to be entertained, just to escape. I just enjoy the platform. I enjoy creating on it. I mean, even when I was in television, when I was producing, like, and I would see my stuff on TV, it was like, oh, that was kind of cool, all of a sudden there. And then I would see my team stuff on TV. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And so, yeah, there's those rare times you're on YouTube and you're served up your own video and you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. It's that thing. And I enjoy it. Now there's those days where it's like, I don't want to do anything. I don't, I don't either. I'm just kind of drained for an idea. I'm not burnt out. I'm just drained. And I mean, this. I mean, family life too. Our youngest one has special needs, and a lot of times that dictates my schedule. But it is what it is. But I can also work for myself, and I can say, hey, today I'm not going to create, or today I'm not going to do this. We're going to a doctor's appointment, or whatever it is. I mean, I've edited in hospital rooms, and written scripts in my head, sleeping up against the ER wall and stuff like that.
I
But
see.
I think it's funny because I always had a team around me, and now I'm a solo creator, and I'm okay with that. It's not that I don't like people, but I don't have a desire. I just don't, to build a big business or to be a big media company. I don't. I'm not. In fact, when I named my company Kevin Kolbe Media, which was like the second or third name I came with, my oldest son said, Dad, you won't ever be able to sell it. And I said, why? He goes, nobody wants to buy your name. So go to your room. But it's like, I'm just not thinking that. I'm not, like Sean Cannell could one day sell Think Media and it could become something else, but I'm okay doing what I'm doing. The age thing to me is ridiculous, and I mean, look, I'll share my age. I don't care. I don't care. I'm 28. And she laughed. I'm 63 as of the recording of this. And I think I don't know, what was it in my 50s, when the position went away and I started. And I've had people try and play the ageism thing, and it's like, I'm not going to give that any time. I'm just not. I can't do anything about it. Position went away. I got to do something else. And I enjoy creating. And in fact, I think there was one time in my career, and this is after I lost the job, right? And a friend of mine, a well-meaning friend, who's a very well-to-do entrepreneur, said to me, you need to stop creating content and get a real job. And I was like, you're right. And I did that for a day. And I thought, no, you're wrong. This is what I do. This is how I'm wired. This is my job. What are you talking about?
Everyone's always trying
you
to
know,
make us get real jobs. Like what we have isn't a real job. My response to people that are like, you can't make any money doing that, or it's not a real job. I'm always like, I wish the IRS knew that because I really like all that tax money back. you know? So it's kind of those things. Like I think that there's obviously a lot more acceptance in it now, but I think there's just a lot of like people that worry and stuff. Like I don't think my dad was like truly on board with me doing entrepreneurships until I bought a house. And I had been an entrepreneur for 11 years at that point. And so I just think it's one of those interesting. My dad's old school. He's a Marine. Like he's like stability. You go something, you commit to it till you die. Like that's my dad. But yeah, it's just one interesting things. Like I said, you've had such an illustrious career and you've done like really great things and you're so widely respected in like the YouTube education and like video space in like a way. And the thing that we all love about you is also that like so humble, so grounded. So like I love when you post up things on Facebook and stuff about how like I can't believe someone left me this comment and it's like this like cool brand or person or they've shared something that you've done. Like it's fun that you still get excited about stuff like that no matter like where you are in your career in your professional journey, and it's important.
dude, I had the vice. This is like I had the vice president of YouTube engineering share a video of mine on X, Twitter, the other day. I didn't even share it on there. So that means he saw it, he shared it, shouted me out, and I'm like, and he's following me on there. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And it's just like, dang. Yeah, it's little things like that. Look, I mean, anytime, still this day, anybody watches a video, you see, the view go up, you see a like, you see a comment that they've taken the time to do that. Oh my word. I mean, that's just dang cool,
I do know, and I'm grateful for every single little one I get. So I totally understand. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to be on The Funded YouTuber. I'm really grateful to you and all that you do to make the internet a better, more happier place. We'll have the links to everything that Kevin is doing over at thefundedyoutuber.com. Remember, until next week, go get that money. Bye, guys. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar, a parent company of Gigastar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal, and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Music provided by APM Music, unrivaled music to bring your stories to life. Neither Gigastar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.